Got more cool than any 10 actors I've ever seen.
Yes, and speaking of cool.
At 95 years old, Clint Eastwood is still Hollywood's ultimate cowboy. Tough, unshaken, and brutally honest. But in a rare moment, he let his guard down and confessed something no one expected. Forget the guns, forget the outlaws. His biggest battles weren't on screen, they were with temptation. The legendary actor finally revealed the 7 women in Hollywood who almost broke his self-control. The actresses who made him forget his lines, blur the line between acting and reality, and left him haunted for decades. These aren't just co-stars. They're the women Clint Eastwood never forgot. The question lingers in the air unanswered while Clint Eastwood does what he's always done best: pause. That pause stretches, as if he's letting the silence do the heavy lifting. Then, with a dry chuckle, gravelly as desert wind, he leans forward slightly. "Well," he says, "at this age, what the hell do I have to lose? I've worked with a lot of beautiful women in my time, and I'll admit it, some of them damn near broke my self-control. Others? I never had the chance, but believe me, I thought about it plenty. Let's just say there were 7 women who could have made me forget every line I ever memorized." The smirk beneath Clint Eastwood's mustache lingers as he begins to unfold a story. Not about outlaws, shootouts, or dusty frontier towns, but about temptation, raw chemistry, and the kind of connection that tests a man's discipline more than any Hollywood stunt. The first name he utters is Meryl Streep, and immediately his eyes soften, his gravelly voice lowering as if savoring a secret. "Meryl," he says slowly, almost tasting the memory. "That woman was dynamite, trouble wrapped in elegance." When they filmed The Bridges of Madison County, audiences swore they could feel the heat radiating off the screen. But Clint insists the camera only caught half the story. The other half, he admits, was what went on between takes. A glance here, a smile there. She had this way of tilting her head, looking right at me, and suddenly I'd forget my lines. Doesn't happen to me often, but with Meryl Streep, it did. There's one scene Clint never forgets: the farmhouse kitchen, when his character lifts her chin with a tenderness that has melted audiences for decades. "People still ask me if that was acting," Clint says with a sly grin. "Let me tell you, it wasn't. That was me trying not to kiss her for real." The squint sharpens as another name crosses his lips: Sandra Locke. The expression that follows is complicated. Half grin and half grimace. "Now there's a name that stirs the dust," he mutters. They worked on 6 films together, something almost unheard of in Hollywood. Their chemistry was undeniable. With Sandra Locke, half the time I couldn't tell if we were acting or just being ourselves. The connection was that thick. Directors stopped calling cut because they knew they were watching lightning strike. But lightning always leaves burn marks. Clint doesn't sugarcoat it. There were fights, big ones. The kind that could have torn the walls down. But 5 minutes later, she'd walk on set, her hair catching the light, her eyes locked on me, and that line I swore I'd never cross, it snapped clean in half. He pauses, his laugh rough, caught between rue and nostalgia. She was temptation and torment rolled into one. A storm I walked straight into, knowing damn well it would tear me apart. And if I could go back, I'd walk right into it again. He rubs the back of his neck, eyes distant as though replaying every moment. It wasn't just attraction, it was fire. We burned hot, bright, reckless. Every word, every look felt like a spark landing on dry kindling. We fought like enemies, loved like fools, and neither of us cared about the damage. She made me feel alive in a way nothing else ever did. Clint exhales, voice dropping softer. People think storms pass and leave silence. But truth is, storms leave scars too. And every scar she left, I wear it proudly. Because for a while, she was mine. The smile returns, this time touched with mischief as he recalls Shirley MacLaine. "Now there's a firecracker," he says, shaking his head like he's replaying an old reel. They shared the screen in 2 Mules for Sister Sarah, and Clint admits she was unlike any woman he'd met before. On screen, she was playing this nun who wasn't what she seemed. Off screen, she was exactly the same. 1 minute she was serious, all business. The next, she was laughing so hard the crew couldn't keep the cameras steady. And that laugh, it wasn't polite or dainty. It was bold. It dared you not to fall for her. He leans forward, eyes narrowing with a sly gleam. Shirley MacLaine kept me on my toes. You never knew what she'd do next. Kiss you, slap you, or tell you about some past life she'd had in Egypt. And truth be told, any of those sounded pretty damn good to me. She didn't just play the game. She rewrote the rules while you were still trying to catch up. Trouble, sure, but the kind you'd sign up for twice. Clint's tone darkens as he recalls Jessica Walter, the unforgettable star of Play Misty for Me, the first film he directed. She came in like a thunderbolt. On screen, she played obsession better than anyone I've ever seen. That look in her eyes? It wasn't just acting. She had this way of staring straight through you, peeling back the layers, seeing the things you wanted to hide. Off camera, Jessica Walter was just as magnetic, sharp, witty, and a little dangerous. There were times I couldn't tell where Evelyn, her character, ended and Jessica began. She'd flash that smile, sweet but dangerous, and I'd think, Lord, if she leans in any closer, I'm not walking out of this clean. She was temptation and chaos tied into one. Beautiful, magnetic, terrifying. And that's a damn hard combination to resist. The memory shifts again, and his voice softens as he speaks of Donna Mills. She was a different kind of temptation, he recalls. Blonde, fresh-faced, with that California glow. She didn't need to raise her voice or fight for the spotlight and Play Misty for Me. It found her naturally. She carried innocence on the surface, but underneath you could tell there was steel. The kind of woman who didn't need to play games. She already knew the effect she had. Clint's grin broadens as he remembers a particular day. We'd been working long hours, everyone tired. She walked by, humming under her breath. Nothing fancy, just soft. And damn if half the crew didn't stop what they were doing just to listen. That's the presence she had. Quiet, magnetic, and dangerous in its own way. I always tried to behave, but with Donna Mills, behaving felt like the hardest job of the day. Then comes the name he never forgot, even though they never worked together. Sophia Loren. His squint softens with something close to awe. Lord, that woman wasn't just an actress. She was a force of nature. Clint saw her at premieres and Hollywood events, and every time it was the same. You'd be in a room filled with tuxedos and gowns, and the second she walked in, the whole place disappeared. All you saw was Sophia Loren. He remembers her laugh, low and rich, the kind that could undo a man. She didn't need to say a word. You were already wondering what lines you'd cross if she crooked a finger at you. And I'll admit it plain. If she had, I'd have followed her right out the door. Some women you admire from a distance because you know it's safer. But Sophia Loren? She was the kind of woman you knew might change you forever if you got too close. Finally, Clint shakes his head with that gravelly chuckle as he recalls Raquel Welch. Now she was pure fire. All curves, all confidence. When she walked into a room, men straightened their ties. Women adjusted their dresses. Everybody knew they'd just been outshined. Though he never shared a screen with her, he saw her plenty at Hollywood parties and premieres. She was the kind of woman who made you forget whatever conversation you were having. One look, and suddenly you're wondering how fast you can find an empty corner. She had that smirk, half invitation, half warning. And a man like me, I'd have taken it as both. His laugh is almost guilty, but still warm. Some temptations are meant to stay fantasies. Raquel Welch, she'll always be one of mine. The room falls quiet again as Clint leans back, his squint carrying that familiar mix of mischief and memory. He takes a slow sip of his drink and lets the silence settle before offering the final reflection. People think being the gunslinger, the cop, the tough guy, that was the hard part. But standing 5 feet away from some of these women, that was the real test of grit. You can rehearse stunts, you can fake a fistfight, but you can't fake the way your pulse jumps when the most beautiful woman in the world looks you dead in the eye. And there you have it, the untold confessions of Clint Eastwood, a man who discovered that real temptation wasn't on the big screen, but standing just a few feet away. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's most legendary cowboy, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with fellow movie fans, and subscribe for more incredible stories from the golden age of cinema. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.